Roundtable 141, locked in a room with a microphone. It's pretty much us. It's pretty much you. Don't touch your face. All right. Hey, hope everyone is safe in place, helping us beat back this nasty bug. But cheers to if you BYO beveraged, cheers to being apart but never alone. And as cheesy as that is, there you go. Cheers, Bandrew. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Oh, there we go. Van Jan. Oh, okay. All right. There. Perfect. Hey, if you're at the round table virtually, we're all virtually, but we got 4 of us sitting here. If you're in the chat, if you're enjoying a glass of water, coffee, tea, whatever, tweet that. Hit me on Podcast Helper. Show us what your view of the round table is. That would be fun. But yeah, let's get into it. So, kind of being serious, but also having fun with the fact that most of us, at least here in the US, really around the world, a lot of people are sort of staying inside, right, to defeat this pandemic that we got going on. And so it makes me think of people who are now sort of mixing their work with their fun. So for us, that would be our day jobs. A lot of us, 3 of us, Daniel, Dave, and myself, who I'll introduce in a second. We kind of went right up that part. Sorry, guys. Work from home. So I don't know if it's changed much, although it has changed for me. And Bandrew, I think, usually leaves his studio and then comes back and does all his personal stuff in the studio. So how has that changed? And for you, maybe if there's anything we can share that helps that transition, that what you're going through, even if this is just entertainment, hopefully it is. We'll get there. But let's meet the roundtable. Of course, Daniel J. Lewis, co-host, welcome back.
Thank you. As far as I knew, I do not have COVID-19, so I'm happy to be here, happy to be healthy, and I'm not touching people.
Yeah. Well, you're in the right place if you do have it, which is way further than 6 feet away from all of us.
Which sounds both good, but also creepy to say I'm not touching people.
Yes.
So normally say we're not touching people.
Your normal day. Well, hey, you know what? I'm a hugger. Like if we see each other at a conference, I'm probably going to hug you. If I can tell that you're receptive to that, I'm not going to just do that to anybody. Right. But I'm always happy to receive a hug. These days, we got to be, we just chill for a little bit. That's all. It's not gone. Please, not everyone freak out, man. I hope this doesn't turn everyone into a bunch of germophiles. And germ is actually not a bad word, so stop using that way. All right. Dave Jackson, welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be here. Dave Jackson from the schoolofpodcasting.com. And I actually am crossing the street. I'm walking around my neighborhood. And when I see somebody like walking their dog, I am the guy that I'm seriously practicing social distancing.
Nice.
Because other people are not.
Yeah. And then that's it. You know what? And if you are, thank you. I mean, it doesn't require everyone, but I mean, everyone should play their role as much as possible. But we won't get into that. Stay inside. Bandrew, welcome back to the roundtable.
Thank you very much. To copy Dave Jackson, Bandrew Scott from bandrewscott.com.
Very
happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I always wonder where you send people because I bet a lot of people don't even know your name. They sing it on the screen. They probably know you as Podcastage, right? Because of handles. Yeah. But I always curious, where does Bandrew send people when he gets his one sort of call to action?
I typically will send them to Bandrew Scott because that has links to everything. So that's typical. Exactly. Because I don't like promoting the social media companies.
Yeah.
Twitter doesn't need any more free advertisement. So go to my website and then you can find anything that you want.
100%.
Here's the beautiful thing. I just went to Google and typed in Bandrew. He completely is just crushing the front page of Google. Just everything.
Anyone else in the world
I was going to say,
Bandrew.
I mean, come on.
Exactly. I had a feeling.
and that is, right, we've talked about this probably ad nauseum, but your own domain is the best place to send people. And then in this case, me too, for the same thing, I oftentimes will send people to rayortega.com because it is sort of the aggregate page, right? And I know it's always going to be there. Whereas, I have podcasts that aren't currently being produced and there's nothing there. So you can always jump off from that page. So I'm planning to always be Ray Ortega. So that's where I send people. I might change that. Who knows? Dave Ortega. Sounds good to me.
Raymond. Would it be Raymond?
It's not a Raymond. I went to the principal's office in 3rd grade for that, buddy. So watch your mouth. That's no joke. Story later. All right. Let's get into this because Bandrew said he had words, and I don't know if I did this in the live or behind the scenes, but I was talking about how more people now have been sort of forced into mixing their work with their play, right? Podcast being the play, unless you make a full-time living for your podcast, and then you're already in that world. But Bandrew, you said you had thoughts, and I'll just leave it wide open. Like, what do you mean when you have thoughts when I say about that?
So I think that working from home can be extremely convenient, but at the same time, it blurs the line of work and play. And a lot of people risk allowing work to interfere with their day-to-day. So it's I don't know exactly the correct steps to take to separate the two, especially if you work in the same location that you do have fun time. You do watch movies or you do record your podcast.
So this is new for you. Is this a new experience for you doing both? Are you or maybe you're not. Maybe you still have, maybe you're essential. Maybe you go into the office. I don't know.
I could if I needed to.
Okay.
I have the letter from the government saying, hey, essential person, they can be on the roads. But I am working from home. But prior to this, I still had the ability to and would occasionally work from home.
Sure.
I tried to limit that because when I do work from home, I'll end up starting work at 6:30 and going till 5. So I'll put in 9.5, 10 hours. And I think that's the danger of working from home. And then when you have a stressful day at work, you don't have that escape that you get when you work in an office and you just leave. It lingers in your living room or your office. And I haven't found a solution for that yet. But I think the best thing that people can do is still stick to that typical work schedule and just stop right at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock whenever you normally clock out. Don't set this precedent where you will put in 100 extra hours over a month. Don't do that because then it will become a very toxic environment. And unfortunately, that's now your home for the time being.
Right. And so I think, from those of us who do work at home, I've been remote worker for a decade. And I will say I've never mastered that. It works for me. Like I would never tell people to do things the way I do them because it probably would not work. And it is potential. I do have potential to do something at 8, at 9, at 10. I'm slacking coworkers at all hours. And I tell them, look, these are messages I'm putting here. They don't need to be responded to. There are more notes for me, or it won't get that done. So I do not manage that well, but I manage the situation for myself. So I think it is different for everyone. But it probably could be better. Dave, you work from home, but haven't always. It is a more recent thing for you over the last few years, right?
Yeah, last 4 years. Before then, it was a 20-minute drive to work, teach a class all day, and then drive home.
So how have you dealt with that transition?
It takes some getting used to because it's just weird that I never realized how much, like Bandrew was talking about, either the drive home lets you decompress, and likewise the drive into work lets you start thinking about, okay, here's what I'm going to do today. I want to start off with that, then I'm going to do this and that. So now
I live funny memes where people are like, they're going on vacation. It's like to the living room, the tour of their the kitchen, the bathroom. Like, so you need that.
So what I did was I have set times every day that I take a break because otherwise I won't. I do what Bandrew does. You get in the middle of things and it's like all of a sudden, like I have like Fred Flintstone. I have an alarm on my phone that goes off that's like, hey, guess what? Work is over. Like, stop. Because otherwise I'll look up and I'm like, wow, it's 6:15. It's like, so that's what I kind of do. I have a break in the morning, the break in the afternoon, just like I did if I, was punching a time clock or something like that. Because otherwise you just kind of get lost and, and especially this is horrible. If you like your job, you will just keep doing it forever. Yeah. And so it's like, wow, I'm working for peanuts now. I just gave them 4 extra hours. So I'm like,
separate spaces help if you can. I converted my garage into my office/studio. So it serves both those functions. The problem is we do use the same gear for work as play often, which is our computers. So that can be tough. But if you can separate and have a place you go away from, even if that's a desk that is like near a window on the side of your house that you then leave, right? Go to the kitchen, shut that part of the world out. I know, Daniel, you've been remote for a long time as well. How do you sort of split that divide? Like, how do you, whatever?
Yeah, I moved to a remote office, some commercial space, because
That's right.
boundaries weren't easy to keep at home.
But you stopped
And
doing that, right?
right,
Okay.
my studio is now back at home. So I was able to move everything back into my original space, very close to where everything was. Actually, my desk is in the exact same position as when I first started podcasting. My very first episode was recorded in this very spot. So that's kind of cool. But the space is completely different, gear is completely different. So for me, I'm in that situation where half of the time I'm a full-time dad. So I'm working when my son is sleeping. The other half of the time, then because I'm self-employed and have to make ends meet, then I'm not respecting my own boundaries all that much, or I'm not setting that many boundaries for myself because I need to work a lot during the other half of the time so that I can try and keep things running and turn things around the way that I need to. But for me, having a separate room really helps. And what you were talking about with work in one place, play in another, that's something else that I think that really helps too. So even though I have a laptop computer, I try to always keep it here in my studio space instead of taking it somewhere else, because I can very easily start working on my laptop. Although I can work on my iPad as well, the iPad just isn't set up as much for working. So if I'm going to work on my iPad, it's more an intentional choice, not just oh, let me check my email for a moment and 2 hours later I've lost time. So my entertainment is somewhere else, food is somewhere else, bathroom is somewhere else. So I am forced to step away from this room here and there, and it sometimes for me it's not so much an actual schedule that I need to watch or to know like I need to take a break every so many hours. I'm trying to monitor my energy and focus levels. And there are some days where I'll be here at my workstation and I'll just be staring at my screen, just like mentally dead for a little bit. And that's when I know, all right, I need to either force myself to do something and get it some momentum so that I can get into the groove, which sometimes does work really well. And sometimes it's, all right, I just need to go do something else. Go take a walk 100 feet from anyone else, or go play an Xbox game for a few minutes, or watch some funny YouTube videos, just something to kind of reset myself and then come back and focus. But whenever I do those other things, I have to set a time limit on them so that I don't waste time on those. So I still have time to come back and do what I need to.
Right. Alarms on your phone are very helpful. It used to be an alarm to go pick up my kid from school, but I am actually now also a school teacher. My office podcast studio is also a classroom. So things are not normal at all. So now is definitely not the time to talk about the current workflows, but normally, yeah, being able to step away. I mean, it is nice to work at home because everything is, you can just walk around the block. You can do that at an office too. But you do have to be careful of not like doing housework, like going inside for a beverage and then you end up, doing laundry or something crazy like that. So people often say they're on two sides of the fence. They're either absolutely would love and could work at home, and those who say they just couldn't do it. And I think those people would be surprised that they could with just a few tips that we've mentioned and a little discipline. It might be surprising. I think a lot of people are finding out that, well, even a lot of companies are maybe finding out how much. I mean, we'll talk about a test of remote work. Like companies are really figuring out right now. Either employees are figuring out, okay, it's baloney that I actually need to go in the office, or employers are finding out, wow, we probably could save some money by having a lot of people off site. And you know what? People do tend to oddly, ironically, get more productive. They find their employees all of a sudden are producing more work. So that's obviously anecdotal, but I'm hearing a lot of that where work output increases. But I'm curious how this affects your podcasts at all, content production, right? Is being in the same spot totally disrupting your creative content calendar? Bandrew, you turn out more content than Dave. I don't. It's a race, but you guys both turn out a ton of content. Has being stuck in the same place that you do that content affected it at all, or any part of it affected your content at all? And if not, how are you? What's your magic?
Not at all. Not at all. But that's because I'm already a misanthrope. And I would literally drive into the office, probably talk to one person for 2 minutes every single day, drive home, and then get back to work here. So there's no real change in my interaction level. This is my comfort zone.
Have you increased your content? Are you connecting? Are you trying to? Do you feel a need to put out more content for people to entertain or escape?
See, I see a lot of people doing that, and I would love to have the time to do that, but I'm still doing the 6:30 to 5 job. So I'm still working. So I don't have all that time in the day to strategize.
I do at 1.5 hour live streams on YouTube, not unlike this, when I should be sleeping.
Yeah.
So I have a breaking question here. Bandrew, are you an alien?
Kind of, yeah, a little bit.
I have the t-shirt to prove it. Yeah.
And here, I'll take the hit for our audience. I had to look up misanthrope. A person who dislikes humankind, not other people. It says humankind and avoids human society. And what does Bandrew always start his videos with? He says, "Greetings, Earthling."
Well, you want me to add on top of that? In Discord, I am the owner, and the role is Reptilian Elite.
Mm-hmm. Look, I want this answer. I want this answer to be yes, because then I'm not going to feel completely inept in my content output. Okay, this makes sense. It makes sense.
One more thing. Check the location of my Twitter. Rachel, Nevada. What is that located near?
And his food source is actually microphones. He's eating the microphones.
Turns out he's just a conspiracy theorist. But if he's an alien disguised as a conspiracy theorist, maybe COVID's how we defeat the invading aliens.
Maybe.
Well, for me, I've found that. I go out to eat not because I just love like Chipotle, although I do love Chipotle, but I will go because I live right by a mall. So there's tons of places to eat, and I will do that a lot during the week just because I want to get out of the house.
Hot dog on a stick.
And so now that I'm being a good person and I'm staying home, even if just walking around the block, I'm like, I just want to see something else. I've seen my neighborhood a lot. I want new scenery. And so I'm finding that's getting a little old. But on the other hand, I have more episodes in the can than I have ever had in my life because I'm here. Like last night, I was just on a roll. I was doing some editing for clients, and I'm like, oh, while that's doing that, I can run this through Auphonic. And while that's doing that, I'll do this and that. It was just like, all of a sudden I got down. It's like, wow, I just did like 6 episodes in, X amount of time. So I am a little more productive. But on the other hand, there are days when I'm like, okay, I think I'm just going to change, get some new pictures for the wall, something to break up the monotony.
Interior decorating with Dave Jackson.
That's it.
So Dave,
is it time for you to launch another podcast, Dave?
Yeah, there you go.
I actually am thinking of starting one.
Is that a COVID-19 I was just like flash briefing on Alexa?
I actually I have it designed. It's not public yet.
Wow. So is your content production gone up, Dave? Is being stuck inside
a little bit? That I have found also though that you cannot replace passion with boredom, because the shows that I'm bored doing, I'm still bored doing, and I just keep thinking I should quit this podcast, and I'm like, it brought in some money. Okay, I'll keep doing it. It's like so. But that's why I want to make
this is a question that I think. Oh, you know what? Let me pull it up here from Chris in the chat, and he's saying, "Do any of you think you will crack at some point and start to go nuts? After how long?" And I don't think that has to be a question related to anything in current events. I think it's just a question of when you're going to crack. I think this is a content creator question.
The thing is, I think that that question has quite an error in its assumption that we're not already
Exactly.
nuts.
It happened.
Yeah,
The day I pressed submit to iTunes.
exactly.
I could see it. When my last semester of college, I took more hours than I ever had ever, but it was like I'm graduating or dying. One of the two. I'm going, and my entire life became have to. So I had I didn't get to choose anything. It was like, nope, you're doing this, and then you got to do that, and then you got to go to work and pay the bills. And by the end of that semester, I was like, I just get me out of this thing. So I was so happy to do that. So that's kind of, I don't know. I think our podcasters in general kind of control freaks because we do get to control our show completely.
But you also, at the same time, I feel like you can get trapped in that trap as a podcaster too. You're like, you feel like you have to keep doing it, or I have to put out an episode this week, right? People, they build their own traps when they are content creators. Like, I can't miss one, or I can't give up the show.
Yeah.
Question is, why do we say that? Especially when none of us are Rogan. We're not pulling in major bucks, but some of us, it means money.
For me, I mean, my podcast is still on hiatus, the Audacity to Podcast, that is. Now, I've gotten a lot accomplished on the My Podcast Reviews product, working with my developer on that, testing a lot of things. Boy, we've made a lot of improvements on that over the last couple months. But my routine actually hasn't changed that much since trying to stay at home more, other than just the fact that I'm trying not to go shopping as much as possible, only to go shopping when I absolutely need something. So what I do find, though, more because of society and where I know people are and where other podcasters are, and I can assume what some people are feeling, I am really getting that itch to get consistent with the Audacity to Podcast again. Even like this morning, shout out to Fred Castaneda. He's in our chat room right now. Introduce a Bridge Too Far is his name. He interviewed me just this morning, and that'll be an episode of the Podcast Reporter very soon, or maybe available by the time you're hearing this episode. But just having those conversations and these roundtables, it's just really giving me that itch that I want to record. And today, actually, I almost recorded 3 episodes because I had 3 things on my mind that could have been episodes.
Now you sound like someone who wants to start a podcast. I almost started the podcast today. I almost did it.
Yeah, but I'm waiting 8 weeks until I can be in New and Noteworthy.
Yeah, well, you better record. I mean, it doesn't matter if you had 3 different episodes thought today. You need 20 before you even put it out.
At least 20.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Let's see.
What kind of...
Kenny says, how many of you are actually getting things done that you were procrastinating? And I'll tell you, for me, I just found a different way to procrastinate. Like, now I'm live streaming on YouTube, like for an hour and a half, and it took me an hour to set it up. Guess how much content I could have created?
Right.
Actually, I'm not doing that. I'm just like, this is an opportunity to do something else fun. Like I'm just pushing. It hasn't, the current events hasn't changed anything. Like it hasn't, it's me. Like, I'm just still procrastinating the same thing.
Yeah, I went down the Wix rabbit hole. I was like, I've never played with Wix.
There you go.
I should do that. And got about 3/4 the way of actually thinking about, maybe I'll use this for one of my websites. And then I was like, wait a minute, I've got time to play with Elementor. So I went over to WordPress and loaded Elementor and then recreated the Wix website on Elementor. So it was, it's a lot of educational stuff is what I'm going through. Old webinars that I went to and never went back to watch the replay and things like that. I'm like, you should probably doing something productive, or at least something I can use in the future. I don't know. What are you guys doing with your extra time? Or do you have extra time?
No extra time here. I have been meaning to launch a podcast for about 1.5 years, and I always get right up to it, and then I just realize, no, I don't want to burn myself out. I'm just gonna watch horror movies instead.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's, yeah, you could hardly say I don't want to burn myself. I mean, Bandrew puts out more content than most content creators. So Bandrew,
more humans.
If people are new to the band, you are you're a YouTuber, but I actually thought you did distribute some stuff in a podcast feed. You do.
Yeah. I have the Bandrew Says podcast.
You've been meaning to launch another podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the goal was to make it a supplementary thing for Podcastage, where I make it more of a Q&A and educational format that's longer form, because I don't think long form reviews that are 10, 20 minutes long really do well. So I wanted to spin that off and make it more interactive.
Can we talk about something you just made me think of? Because I think a lot of us have and maybe at one point, we've all launched or wanted to or have done some form, and I think it's a popular format, especially for a new podcaster, a Q&A type show, right? Although I think nobody realizes that like you just think, okay, I got an idea. I know a lot about something and I'll have the audience direct the content. And when you start, you don't have an audience.
Yeah.
And
that's
even
a
when
problem.
you have an audience, it can be hard to get questions or not the same question, right? So I'm curious about that.
So here's the thing. I've been scraping through the comments for 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I have a general understanding of what people are interested in certain topic areas. So I have a few different episode formats that I wanted to do. One would be like a microphone showcase where it wouldn't just be a review, but it would be walking through how I would process it and going more into depth about how you could implement a certain microphone into a podcast, get it to match other microphones, stuff like that. Then there would be audio critiques where people submit their audio and I just crap all over them and try to do it in a constructive way. And I can't remember what the other ones were right now. I haven't looked at the topic idea for a while.
Very affirmative to the fact that you don't have an audience when you start it. And I'm sure, look, when I started the Podcaster Studio, it was a live streamed Q&A. Guess what? No one was there to ask questions.
Yeah. I did a show called The Dates from Hell Show with somebody dared me to make that show because my ex-wife and I were trading stories, and I think we had 4 stories, so that made 4 episodes. And then I sat back and thought about it. I was looking for people to talk about themselves in public, which most people don't like to do. Oh, and by the way, if you could humiliate yourself about how you had a horrible experience on a date. And then my favorite thing is I would then get done and pitch like eHarmony or something like that. I'm like, hey, listen to this horrible story. Now go get out there and date somebody. So yeah, but we didn't. We ran out of steam real quick on that show because we had no audience.
Right. So so if there is a new podcaster watching this, which a lot of times there are, any tips for a new person who's thinking, I want to, this is the format. It's a great idea. I want to do Q&A.
Oh.
The question's just going to roll in.
Yes. Go ahead, Bandrew.
I think there are 2 separate ways. One is stolen from Better Podcasting. Just go onto Reddit and search for questions and issues that they see somebody having and address it there.
The questions. Yes. It's a difference between getting the questions yourself, because the questions are there, and then just eliciting, like hoping they'll just show up.
Right. So I think it's not just going to show up. You need to put in the legwork by scrolling through forums or looking at publications that are in the same niche as you and look at the comments. What are the heads of that niche not answering? What do people want answered, and format the episode answering that specific question?
I feel like that also opens up the ability to make your podcast a little broader, because oftentimes that sounds like the formula for starting a podcast. You're like, what are the unanswered questions about this niche? But if you can just answer a bunch of, I don't know, just always trying to think. People always worry about putting themselves too far into a corner with a podcast, but I mean, realizing that you can always broaden that. You got to find the audience first. And I think content, it's hard because it does help to build an audience. You said you've been combing through comments for 5 years. Me too. I get some of my biggest videos come from answering a question that came from a comment, not just answering the comment, right? Because guess what? As the teacher always told us, someone else has the question too. And guess what they do now? They put it in Google. Dave, you had some thoughts about that too.
Well, the other one is, and this doesn't work again if you don't have an audience, but you can start off, because I do that every Saturday, go through Facebook and look for questions for Ask the Podcast Coach. And then we have chat room, so we do have people showing up now, but I've been doing that show live for a while. But the other one is, and I got this from Jillian Michaels, she just got a call 8 number or whatever, or speak pipe or something like that, and would say, hey, if you have questions, call this number, and then you can take the best questions and bring them, with you on the podcast. So that way, maybe start off by harvesting some out in Reddit or Facebook or wherever. You can also, another good one is go to Amazon, find a book about your subject, and look. I used to say look at the table of contents, but Bandrew hit the nail on the head. Look at the comments where they go, this book sucks because they didn't talk about blank, because there's somebody that really wants to talk about blank. So that's another way you can kind of figure out what your audience wants to hear.
You could do the same thing with the podcast reviews for your competitors' podcasts.
There you go.
Yeah, and
but you have to.
Good, Dave.
Well, you have to remind people all the time. If that's your goal, hey, thanks so much for, Bandrew, for sending in that question. Don't forget, if you want to get your question on the show, 888-563-3228. That number again, 888-563-3228, or hit us up at the website /contact. And just got 6 Pixels, I think was the name of the show. This is early podcasting. And the guy, was it 6 Pixels of separation?
Something probably. Like that.
Yeah. And that guy had a ton of questions, but at the end of every question, he beat that into your head like 2 or 3 times. And then he'd answer a question, and then he'd like this. And so by the end of it, you're like, okay.
Also have an active social, like be out there talking to people, like instead of just trying to get the questions to come to you. Active anywhere, Reddit, social, like, what you kind of said. And then filtering through, like, don't make it a live show. When you have that call in numbered, we're going to sit. Okay, caller.
Yeah, that doesn't work. People don't want to call in. My favorite this week, Pat Flynn was doing a thing where he would just go live every morning at 8, and I watched for like 15 minutes, and he would get the same question like 6 times. And which was basically, how do I make money immediately starting right now? I don't have any presence at all. And you could just tell by about the 6th time, he's like, well, you have to have something pretty amazing, and you could just tell he was just like,
he answered 1, 4, and 5.
Yeah, so that was hilarious to watch.
Oh man. Hey, there's also been some news. I don't know if anyone is prepared to lead it, but I don't know if there's any more news beyond the fact that apparently Google Podcasts as an app is coming to the iOS store. So Google
it's
beating Apple. It's there now. It's there. Beating Apple. Apple could have released Apple Podcasts for Android a long time ago. You would have thought that would have happened, but Google, in an effort to capture some of that,
right there at the top, so Podcasters Roundtable,
multiple people. Oh, look at that! Well, we only need to feature you, so why don't you show that to us full screen, Dave? Because that's beautiful. When we get a little focus, that's nice. All right, so there we are on Google Podcasts on iOS, right?
Yeah,
what that is. Okay, and what do we think?
Well, here's the thing they did that's silly is there's a thing called a user agent in an app that lets people figure out what that is.
But that's important. Why, Dave? Because that's where stats come from, right?
Right. So we can see how many people came from Google Podcasts, how many people came from Overcast, how many people came from Pocket Cast. And Google, in their infinite wisdom, decided to use the user agent Podcasts, which is the exact same one that Apple Podcasts uses. So I hope somebody politely goes over there and just goes, come here.
Well, Apple is to blame too. They should be using Apple Podcasts instead of podcasts.
Yeah. Well, Apple has like 3 or 4. There's iTunes Stored, podcasts.
QuickTime.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's like the browser, right? Or something. I don't know. I can never tell. From a person who doesn't pay attention to stats. But I have looked, and it does get confusing. But Daniel, I mean, is this it? Is this what we've been waiting for? Is the gold rush coming? Is the
hockey stick growth?
Is it the hockey stick growth? We know, okay, we're being ridiculous, but is this important?
I don't know. I really did not expect Google to do this. I thought Apple would release Apple Podcasts. I still think Apple is going to bring Apple Podcasts to Android. But for Google to bring it to Android, so Google Podcasts, an app that is still in the minority of podcast apps, coming to a platform that's dominated by fantastic and extremely popular podcast apps. I mean, Overcast is more popular on iOS than all of Google Podcasts on Android, if I remember the stats correctly. And Overcast is fantastic. There's already Spotify on both platforms. There are Castro, Pocket Cast is on both platforms. So a lot of really good podcast apps already on iOS. Of course, there's the pre-installed Apple Podcast. So I just kind of wonder, why is Google doing this? Is it just, it almost seems like maybe this is something they were just thinking, well, it's easy enough to do this. Maybe this is part of a way that they're hoping to steal people over from iOS, but it could also be a way that they're feeding the Google ecosystem, allowing you to listen to the same podcasts on your Google Home, on your Android device, on your iOS devices, and through your browser as well. So I think that's probably their goal, is just make an ecosystem that works everywhere.
Did you explain, I had to jump away for a second, but did you explain how this works? Is it the same? It's just basically a home screen badge that, does it take you to Chrome? Does it open Chrome or Safari?
Mm-hmm.
It's different on iOS. It is an actual app on iOS. Well, I mean, the way apps can work is an app can basically be a browser. Right. So I don't know for
Browsers
sure.
Can come up in apps. Can you tell what browser? Because you would have to have Chrome. Like, I mean, it would have to go to Safari if you don't have Chrome installed, right?
Well, it could be, yeah, they have Google Chrome on iOS.
They do, but most people aren't going to have it installed, right? So they have to use Safari at some point.
Yeah, so it's either using the built-in WebKit browser or it's using Chrome. So what I'm going to check is the actual file size of the app to see if maybe that gives us some indication of, like, is it an actual app? Is it just a
hyperlink
browser or something?
I guess it would be a browser.
46.6 megabytes. So that's
big.
That's more than, I think, just that's not using simply WebKit as a browser pointing to the Google Podcast website.
Well, it takes a lot of code to track everything about your life.
Yeah.
Good point. Google Chrome on iOS, for comparison, is 83.9 megabytes.
Bandrew wins if you can get Dave off mic.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, that's, to me, I thought, okay, maybe, because I when I logged into it on my iPhone, it already had my subscriptions from, I have a tablet around here somewhere, an Android tablet that I used Google Podcasts on. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm already subscribed to a bunch of podcasts about podcasting. I'm like, oh, it syncs in the cloud because Google knows your life. And it's, you log in with your Gmail account and off you go. And I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And I'm assuming this is what's feeding Google Home. So when you say play the podcast, it's not Google Play Music, which, for the record, is just, come on, take it outside, take it out to the farm, please.
Dude, we talked about how it's all connected. Like, why would an iOS user use this? And it's just to connect it to everything, right?
Google if they were on the Google Home fence and not the woman in the tube, now they might start using that because they can manage their podcasts on their phone and have it work with their Google Home kind of thing. Although, again, I don't listen to podcasts on my smart speakers. I have really cheap $10 earbuds from Walmart that actually are not that bad. I was surprised. So that's how I listen to pod. I'm not asking Lexi to play podcast for me.
Andrew would not agree with your assessment of your cheap.
Oh no, I know he's got I almost bought. I was looking at the ones he was talking about on his latest show, but I was at Walmart and was like $10. I'm like, how bad can they be? And they're like, they're fidelity wise, they're not.
I'm surprised. Coming from a musician, I'm a little surprised that, but consider the source that's going into them for a podcast.
That's it. That's all I'm listening.
All your time listening to.
No music on this. Okay. This is all podcasts all the time.
Since half the podcast, their audio is probably worse than what's being piped into the bad headphone. It's probably not. And I mean, we're talking like Jimmy Fallon here, right? So we're talking about working from home.
Yeah.
Look, there it is. We found it. Lots of bad
Yeah.
audio being produced by people who have entire audio teams. Now I get it. The talent is not the audio person, but in theory, the people who are doing audio for the Tonight Show and all these things, they're at home because the hosts are at home. It's not hard to pick up the phone and say, hey, host, your audio sucks. Here's what you do. What's going on?
I think that it's intentional. I think that
Make
these
themselves look good when they come back. Like that's
no
good audio till you hear bad audio, and here it is.
No, not at all. I think that these mainstream late night talk show hosts, this is what they think that YouTubers are.
Right. Oh,
they think that.
But also, it could be an authenticity thing. Like I am doing everything myself, and is that a smart move?
The authenticity thing. I have to say something about that.
I mean, it is authentic. It's homemade.
It's authentically bad.
Still authentic.
Authenticity doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean rough. It doesn't mean unpolished. It means authentic.
Right. So, but I'm saying it still fits the definition. It is Jimmy's doing the audio, or his 12-year-old son is doing the audio.
Yeah, but what the thing is, okay, if the microphone is 6 feet away from you, that has nothing to do with authenticity. If the microphone is 3 inches from you, that has nothing to do with authenticity.
Authenticity doesn't mean good or bad. It just means it is being done the way it's being done from you. Like it's.
I mean, having one of you, I think, said earlier that Jimmy Fallon's child came up while he was recording his monologue. That is authentic, and there are ways that you can have some fun with that. There are ways that
not bringing in your sound, not bringing in your sound, all your professional people that are on your staff, and you're doing a live stream. If the audio is bad, I mean, like it is because it's coming because you're doing it all. If I go live on my phone, doesn't mean the audio is going to be great, but I'm not bringing it. You know, there is no behind the scenes. Like the behind the scenes is all in front of the camera, right? Good or bad. Pretty authentic.
Well, all it takes is for one of their audio producers to say, "Hey, dude,
of course it is.
Just hold your phone close to your mouth."
Figure out what's going on. Like, why is it a conscious decision? Because they come on and Bandrew and I'm gonna cut off Bandrew, but you're saying that you think it could be conscious because they think YouTube sucks or something like in this way.
They think YouTube is amateur hour, and then they see these massive YouTubers.
Yes.
Well, YouTubers and podcasters are amateurs. But they think that Casey Neistat and these people with millions and millions of views on every video, this is the type of content that they create, and they don't realize that audiences on YouTube have a set of standards. Of course, if the content is great enough, they will watch it, but the content they're producing does not seem great enough to overcome the subpar quality. Of course, great quality won't fix the bad content, but at least show some effort. Then we can give you credit on one area.
They're clearly watching this, so we should give them some tips. But if the one tip that they could pull away, even if they didn't hear anything we said, like look at the proximity of the microphones for all of us, right? As Daniel's saying, like 6 feet away, like that.
Get a lav mic
on the mic. Yeah, a lav mic. But dude, that's like not simple. Like, do I plug it in the camera? How do I sync it and put like audio is not easy. I will say that audio is not easy. I can pull up my iPhone, open up the video camera, and it's even on the auto settings, I'm going to get a pretty good image, but the audio is going to suck because it doesn't do that automatically well. Absolutely. Unless you just happen to get lucky and stand right in front of it. Right. But if you're going to do a show, if you're going to set it back there, because I'm cooking over here, I think audio is harder. Oh, and that's dangerous, but audio is pretty hard to get right.
The thing I'm surprised on is in the same way that every Zoom meeting starts with, hold on, tap your mic. Wait, do that. Okay, wait, can you hear me? I can hear you. That's the beginning of every Zoom meeting. I'm surprised at how many of these interviews are. So like, how's this working for you? And they're like, well, I'm home with my kids. And like, we're all in that same boat. I'm like, yeah, we've got that. They spend like the first 5 to 10 minutes explaining that whoever the guest is has been sitting home with their kids. They can't go to their job. And
the writers they're out of there too.
yeah. Jimmy Fallon said the one joke was from his sister.
Right. So, but which is crazy because all of these people could still be employed by sending sending jokes, sending audio,
Google Docs, maybe.
all the things. So you do wonder what is going on. But for people who are new, saying audio is not, maybe people are starting up stuff because maybe they are at home. Maybe they just they're like, I don't produce content, but I need an escape. But you're at home, so you can obviously order stuff, right? And I would say, cheap USB mic. Most people have a laptop with a camera on it or some type of, and go. Light is your friend. So with audio, proximity is key, right? Get the microphone close. Don't try to be like fancy and boom your ATR 2100 over your head.
Well, and Bandrew just turned his shower into a booth like a couple videos ago. Yeah.
Oh. I think I stole that from Booth Junkie. I hope he turned it into. Did you? Is it a legit booth or was it an example of how bad audio could be? I missed it.
I think the last time I did that was when I was trying to demonstrate how you can use moving blankets.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. So I talked in the bathroom and said, listen to how bad this is. And then I built a booth out of moving blankets in there.
Nice. Did you slip in the shower? Because that would have been fun.
No, I didn't. Oh, Thank goodness.
Not that I'm advocating for your harm, but I do want to be entertained. I am.
Yeah, you are. You're trying to take out the reptilian elite. I'm onto you.
Look, your channel is like NASCAR for me. Okay, if you don't fall out of your chair or bang into a wall or something, I'm waiting for it.
All right. It'll happen.
It happens. What else? Anything else going on in podcasting for people who have seen nothing but pandemic news? Have we of all of us missed podcasting news? What have I missed?
I think it's funny to hear some of the live podcasts recorded in their space without an audience. But what's nice to hear is to know how talented those people are to still be entertaining, even with literally no one in front of them. Like, for example, I've been listening to Don't Hate Me. Please don't hate me. Please don't hate me. I've been listening to a couple NPR podcasts, but they're entertaining ones.
First of all, congrats, actually. So you want to go the other side of hate. Like that's very interesting. I think politics are shining through here because for some people that doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, I've been listening to Wait, Don't Tell Me and Ask Me Another, which are two
enlightening.
They're entertaining podcasts. They're comedy podcasts. Ask Me Another is like a game show podcast. Wait, Don't Tell Me has game show elements to it as well. They're both entertaining and they're both always recorded in front of a live audience until recently. And in fact, Wait, Don't Tell Me, they still recorded in one of their spaces that they rented, but it was completely empty. The staff of the space did show up and sit down. I think there were 5 people in this auditorium. But what was great to hear is that the hosts were able to just roll with it and have some fun, make the obvious jokes, yes. And so that made it funny for the audience too, because the audience knew there's no laughter here. They can't hear the audience react. I mean, the podcast listening or radio listening audience couldn't hear the live audience reacting. So there were obvious jokes to be made and they leveraged that and they still made entertaining content. And I hope they don't stop thinking, oh man, we can't do as good of a show without a live audience. It was still just as good. And that's showing when your host is truly talented, when they can create great content regardless of who's in front of them. And I liked that.
I thought there was a good tweet by Alex Lindsay. If you don't follow him, he's a audio video guy. Very it's all about the live streaming. Like that's professional. He does professional live streams. And his tweet was great. People stuck at home. I need to do a podcast. Podcasters stuck at home. I need to do a live stream. So true. As I have increased my live streaming and put out not as much podcast content. Like, what is that? There's something about this moment where we want to do something different. And maybe that's it. Maybe because everything's been shooken up, that everyone's lives has been sort of changed so much that we have this need to I got to do something different than what I normally do. I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting question because I think there's one this weekend. There's like a podcasting, whatever you want to call it.
Summit or something?
Yeah, virtual summit. Yeah. And I just saw my email where I've been asked to speak at another one. And I'm sure there's another one coming down the pike because everybody's like, hey, we can't meet together. Maybe we should get together online virtually, which is great. I love the technology. The question is, do we really need to get together frequently. There's the part of me that wants to stay home and be an introvert. I'm like, do we really need to like be together that much? I don't know. What do you guys, are these good? Are they
right? I mean, all of this has led us to probably to be more plugged in than ever, as if we didn't have enough problems with screen time, right? Like,
right?
We're in front of our devices probably even more, which can be tough.
Because without the hallway track, I don't know.
Right. Meeting people in the hallways. I mean, yeah, I will definitely see a shift. I think more people realize they can do stuff virtually, right? And maybe that'll even like birth some original things that where people were limited by the fact that they couldn't afford to put on an in-person show. You know, it'd be nice to see something arise out of that. I don't know.
I know there was a one on AppSumo like months ago, and I bet they're like, oh, they should have
timing.
Yeah, timing.
Well, I think the increase in live streams might just be all these weirdos that need human interaction,
right?
Seeking it some way because they're just stuck with the same person in their home. The move to live streaming allows them some form of interaction with somebody different.
Yeah. Well, I think it does also help the audience because it gives those people something that they can interact with on the reception side and maybe some of the engagement side. Like, I wonder right now how many of those who are watching us tonight, and it kind of seems like we might have more watching us tonight than usual. And Ray's announcement email even went out later than it usually does. So those who are watching, thank you for joining us. We've got a bunch watching live right now. But I wonder how many people are wanting more live content because they want that connection, that engagement in some ways. Like right now, Michael Delaney just said in the chat, I'm always looking for live streaming podcasts. And maybe more people are interested in that. The other night, Wednesday night, Chris Curran was hosting his Podcasters Lounge on Facebook. And I was having one of those nights where I was just staring at the screen. And I didn't want to go waste time playing a game. I knew I needed to work, but just I couldn't focus on work. I wanted to do something constructive. So when I saw that he was doing a live thing online, that was great. I had a way to engage and I ended up jumping into the conversation as well. So I was hungry for that engagement. And I think that other people might be feeling that way as well.
I've seen a little bit of evidence that live streams on the uptake. Is Heather in the chat said, Shannon from Podbean said that a lot of people were taking up their live podcasting feature at Podbean. Right. So it's interesting. Like the move, I think there is something to it. Like what you're saying about, people needing, we are social creatures, most of us. Oh, not Bandrew, but he's also not human. We've established that.
Right.
So,
but no, there are times when I go to the grocery store and I want to have like an in-depth conversation with the checker outer person.
Oh man, you're the worst. Okay, that's hyperbole.
Dave's next pursuit is he's going to be a multi-level marketer.
So hey, I was a checkout person for a long time, but I prided myself on one thing. So people came to my line to get out. So I brought this to my podcast. It's a be nice, be courteous, exchange pleasantries, and then I want you to be able to go on with your day, right? I bet you still write checks too, and then give the pennies. And we're just waiting for Dave to like get out of the line so I get my.
No, I'm the old man with the coin purse. No,
yes, that's one penny. Oh, I forgot my coupons.
Yeah, that's it.
On your phone, David. On your phone. Yeah. No, that's fun. And you're not the worst, Dave. You're the best. That's why I say that. But where are we going with that? You want the interaction, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I just know they're popping up. It's going to be interesting to see if this is a good thing or a bad thing. And there's only one way to find out, and that's to attend a couple and see what.
Oh, for the virtual summits.
Yeah.
So from a group of people who all do live, Bandrew, how much you used to do live?
I used to do live. I used to do Twitch streams.
Right. Well, I thought even on YouTube you did your like interview stuff. I think I watched that live. I felt like, anyways, what can we offer to people now jumping into live? Any tips? I mean, we talked about how I wouldn't start a Q&A show live if you are sort of new and don't have an audience. That can be tough. There are ways around that. We talked about that.
For me, if you're going to do it, pick a time and try to do it at that time, whatever your schedule is. So if it's always Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 or whatever, but that way people know when to come and find you. Because if it's, I mean, that's one of the signs. That's how you kill a sitcom on regular TV. They keep moving you. Fridays at 7. Oh, wait, Wednesdays at 6. No, it's no. Mondays at 9 after whatever. And you're like, you can't find it. And then people go, well, we canceled it because it didn't have an audience. Well, the audience couldn't find it. So, Andrew, what do you think?
I would say that before you start going live, think about what the end goal is. If it's just to jump on and chat with people, do that. But if you want it to be able to be repurposed for a podcast, maybe set aside certain times in the show where you could stop, look at the comments, interact with everybody, and then get back to the content that you want in the final episode. That way it's easier to edit that out or move it to the end of the actual podcast. But think about what you want to do with the live stream before you go live. Just don't think everybody's going live, I'm going to do it too. And then
it can be tricky. Like
burn.
you here's what happens. Hey, we're live. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining me. Yeah. Oh no, Chris. No. Yeah. Hey, so we're gonna go into the live stream. Oh, yeah. Heather. Yeah, me too. Florida. And then like it's such a broken conversation, right? Like
guilty.
But so it's hard not to. How do you involve the audience? It's sort of like a seamless, watchable way. And Bandrew, you kind of hinted at this, like maybe put the bring the audience in, answer questions in certain section. Like I think we're all guilty of this. I do it all the time. Like answer a question in the middle of what I'm saying. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think you could just format it in, okay, we're going to talk about this topic, and you could address it in a way that would be applicable to the live audience as well as your listening back audience. You could say, we're going to address this. I would love to hear from you. Let me know in an email or the comments or anything. Then talk about it. Then 10 minutes later, when you're done talking about it, then address the live audience. So just leave it, make the audience know that they are welcome to engage and that this isn't just a completely passive experience. There's room for them to take part in it. Invite them to it.
Yeah. I think one of the beauties too is what you'll find is the chat has their own thing going on. Like people are meeting people. That's part of that social thing in the chat, and they have their own conversations. And it does help too. That's why co-hosts are really helpful, right? Because you can have one person can pay attention to that chat and pick out the questions. I enjoy StreamYard because it lets us bring the questions right into the video. I just click show the comment, and that's been really cool. And if you just wait for the right moment, you can bring it in, and then the show, keeps going forward, being pushed forward by the audience. So if you have someone who can help you be selective, even bring those questions in and say, oh, hey, Ray, someone in the chat wants to, that's a great way to do it. But I think part of that whole idea of how we're talking about curating comments, it's the same thing for live, I think.
One other thing about live, for anybody doing a live webinar and you go, hey, thanks so much for joining the webinar. Tell me where everybody's at while we wait for people to get here. So you've already admitted that you're not starting the webinar. You're waiting for people to get here. And so you waste the first 5 minutes. When you then put that out as a podcast, maybe cut that part off.
Yeah.
Don't make me listen. Oh, wow. Cindy's from all the way from Mexico. Wow. George, Ohio. Great. Raised in California. Daniel, Ohio. We got 2 from Ohio. I don't want to listen to 10 minutes of that. Really, please. Can you? I know you're going to keep it real, and that's what happened, but it's real boring. It drives me nuts.
Real challenge to live stream is that you're going to get the same question you've already answered and also feel like you need to answer it. And you can't say, oh, hey, we did that in the first 5 minutes. Like it's tough. Sometimes I do answer the same question multiple times because when people check into a live stream, they haven't seen all the other parts of it. Now, the beauty is you can rewind on these things, but that's not live. They'll do that later.
And also figure out ahead of time how to kick somebody out of the chat room.
Right. Have that.
You don't want to have to figure that out when you really need to know that. Like know that ahead of time. Dig the well before you're thirsty.
Awesome. Any other live stream tips for people who are thinking, you know what? I do have a podcast, but I'm going to go live now.
Don't eat chili the night before or anything that could slightly upset your stomach because the show must go on.
Yeah, I like to have I always label these BYO beverage, and my favorite beverages tend to not be friendly to being on a microphone. So, be aware, when you're live, you can't edit that out, right? In a podcast, right? So if it's just you, you should think about things like having water or things that you might need that might normally in a podcast take you away for a minute. Bathroom breaks. So like, I'll be right back. And then, if you're doing OBS, you put up a "we'll be right back" screen. But
well, and that would be another one. Whatever you're going to do, hang a sock, whatever it is on the door to let anybody else in the house know that you're recording and don't walk in.
Kids they blow right through the door.
Yeah, they don't care.
They're like, "What's this sock, Dad?"
Yeah.
Feed me.
That's it.
Lock the door.
A novel idea. And then I guess another one is, I think all of us have a /live so that people know where to go. So that way, if later you switch from Be Live to, StreamYard to, YouTube, whatever, your audience knows where to go.
Hey, a technical tip on that. If you're not embedding this stuff on your own page, which is what we do right now with podcastersroundtable.com/live, when we're live over there, make sure you sign up for our email list. When you are using something else and you're redirecting them to whatever else it is you're using, Facebook, YouTube, it doesn't matter. Make sure that redirect, you hear us talk a lot about 301 redirects. Don't use a 301 in this case. Use a 307 redirect. That's a temporary redirect. The reason you want it to be temporary is because it is temporary. You're changing where that's going each time. If it's a 301 redirect, what you risk happening is this week when your listener visits that, they're taken to the right link, but next week they're taken to this week's link instead of next week's link because their browser cached it. So they have to do some complicated things in order to force a refresh on the cache of those redirects. So my general policy now is I say, whenever you are using a redirect for something outside of your own site, make it a 307 temporary redirect. If it's something inside your own site, make it a 301.
So what's an example? So for people using pretty links, which is probably what a lot of people are doing, this is where you have this option, right? You would create a nice link. What's an example for both of those, outside, inside?
So a /live, if that's going to a YouTube event this week. So that needs to be a 307 redirect because next week it's going to be a different YouTube URL. The week after that, again, different YouTube URL. The week after that, maybe you do something on Facebook Live instead. So you make sure your /live point to that. An internal redirect might be those episode number redirects or episode keyword redirects. So you say, visit myawesomepodcast.com/10, and that's a redirect internally, a 301 redirect to your site. And one of the big reasons you want your internal links, especially ones that you speak, to be a 301 is because your audience may use that if they're blogging or writing anything about your content, and you want any links to your pretty links to be passed on to your actual link, which might be, a mile long, and that's okay. Other examples of your internal redirects are if you want to have multiple words for the same page, like /contact and /feedback. Those might go to the same page, but you might want to make sure that you have both redirects just in case you say one or the other, or maybe you give the wrong URL in a podcast for your show notes, or spell it, you want alternate spellings, that kind of thing. Anything that is on your domain redirecting to something else you own on that same domain, that should be a 301. I think even if you're redirecting to something that is on a separate website that you still own, I think that should still be a 307 temporary because you may change something about that other site.
I think the other thing too is try to keep it simple. I know for me, I was laughing. I was playing music under, so I had this music bed going while I'm reading my patrons who had contributed at a certain level. So I'm trying to kind of vamp on, hey, thanks so much, so-and-so at this website, so-and-so. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the Roadcaster to see how much time do I have left, because I want to fade the music in just at the right moment, because who cares if we run out of music or if we have too much music? But nonetheless, as I listen back to it, every time I switch to a new person, so it'd be like, and Glenn the Geek at, HearstRadioNetwork.com, and and everyone had an and in the middle of it, and it was just like, and I was like, why am I such an machine? I'm like, because you're doing 5 things at one time. Yeah. I was like, so the more you can keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's or get your co-host to play the music or whatever. So
Heather in the chat said you are multitasking all the time in a live stream. It is,
Yes.
it is literal, like riding a bike, spinning plates, and like doing all the things.
Yeah, and some people can't do that. Some people just don't think that way. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just maybe that's not the way you're wired. You can, I think, ramp up to that a little bit because certain things end up becoming second nature. That's, oh man, I have to steer a wheel with my hands and use my foot to press one of two, maybe even three pedals. Whoa, I can't do that. You learned how to do it.
Yeah,
probably.
and know your limitations, and then prepare around that, right? Don't try to do the chat and roll in audio clips and music, but like build up to it. Like you're saying, the brain is quite incredible. I was watching a behind the scenes thing of the Hamilton music, and the guy who live mixes it. You guys would love this stuff. He live mixes like anyone, if they're not on microphone, there's 25 people. The microphone is not up, and he has to catch all. And he's literally playing an instrument essentially, which is the mixing board. And a lot of people would not think it works this way, but it does. So, but he talked about how, and you hear this from like NFL quarterbacks or all the time, is that the game slows down for you. At first, it's like hyper speed, and he talks about how being like he's 90% max when he's doing that show, of like his limitation of being able to like keep up. But he talked about how, after like a year of doing it, he's like, oh, there used to be this part where like I was freaking out, and now he's like, oh, well, now I'll just grab a mint, and then I'll come back and mix that piece over here. Like I'll catch the singer. I know where they're at. So it does. Your brain does catch up. I mean, I'm learning bass from Bandrew, who's teaching me. Actually, that's actually literally true. He taught me something the other day. It was really cool. And it's amazing to watch your brain change in real time. So give yourself a break. Don't try to jump in and do it all at once. I mean, I love people. We get new podcasters all the time. And what do they want to do? They want to do a live call-in show. It's live. They want to have remote hosts, and they want to roll in music, and they want to do everything at once. Build up, man.
Yeah. I've done live streaming with multiple web cameras before.
Yes.
And that starts to get complicated because you can get really into the conversation and forget that the camera is pointed at the wrong person.
Yeah.
So they
nice.
know the camera's still on them because maybe they're monitoring the live video or something. So they're just trying to put on a happy face and look all normal and professional while also trying to signal you, hey, get the camera off me.
That happens here. I mean, the Google Hangouts, it did the live switching for us, which was fantastic. StreamYard, waiting StreamYard, where it would live switch the cameras for the person who's talking. And sometimes I would, and then I would click it. I would open the show with just my shot and then just keep going and forget, oh, people are just staring at me while someone's talking. They can't even see Daniel talking. Like, I mean, before this show started, I've done this a lot. I was like, oh yeah, hit record. And I mean, it's infamously, I've not done that several times on this show. So,
I wonder, one of the things that could help solve that, and this is something I wanted to do at one point. I just couldn't get the software communicating with each other because back then I was using OBS Studio. But you see these things like the Stream Deck by Elgato, this little hardware piece. Well, they now have an app. He's looking for his Stream Deck.
He is. Okay, sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
Now they have an app that you can run on your phone. So what this does is it gives you a certain number of buttons that you can press the button. Bandrew's holding one up. It's the Stream Deck Mini is a 3x5, so several buttons that can have little screens inside of them with icons, and you can change it. But you can do that same thing on a phone too. So you could be tapping a button that switches to a camera. Well, a couple things that you might be able to do if you're in this kind of live switching scenario in studio. So this is after COVID-19. You could put that control device between the co-hosts, and they know, all right, if I'm going to say something, I need to reach over and press this button. Or it might even be possible to pair multiple devices to remotely control your software. So everyone who wants to talk, you just let them know, before you talk, press this button to make sure that the camera switches to you.
Yeah. It's like everyone's got a cough button. Not everyone remembers to unmute themselves though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that they have a mobile version, which I have to.
With a monthly subscription, the chat room.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah, $25 a year.
Oh, a year.
Oh, that's
Okay. That's
come
not
It's
on.
bad.
not bad.
You want stuff to
$3 a
survive.
month or 25 a year.
Awesome. Bandrew, now how do you use the Stream Deck?
I haven't in probably a year.
Yeah.
I
What
did
did you
when
get
I
it for?
streamed because I had different scenes in OBS for the I'll be right back and the intro and the outro and desktop capture. But since I haven't live streamed, I haven't really utilized it too much. I don't even have it set up for my Mac, so
I got to
it's
ask you about that because that's something a lot of people would love to do. It takes a long time to build up to it. It can cost money, and we want to do these overlays and roll in these, and we get it going, and then it's just like, I don't do that anymore. Like, right? Do you just have to learn that for yourself? Like, if you want to do it, you kind of have to find out the hard way that, wow, I wanted to try it, and it was cool to figure out what it was, but I don't want to. Why did you stop?
why did I stop live
Yeah.
streaming?
Yeah, well, doing all that stuff, right?
Just
Having a good live
time.
stream. Yeah, it's time. Takes more
Time and I was doing more music-based live streams and I just wanted my Saturdays back. It's my one day where I don't have any obligations, so I just wanted a little bit of time not on the internet.
It's important to know. I mean, and that goes with the podcast, like what you're getting into. And the key is try it. I think if you want to try
Yeah.
it, try it. But it is important to know that it's a lot of work.
It is, and I think it's important to know what you want to get out of it. If you're just doing it to hang out, more power to you. But if you don't have a set regular time, you may need to have one of those intro slide deck things. That's what a lot of streamers do because it takes a while for all the notifications to get pushed out to people, so they're there from the beginning. So you need to understand what, like Ray said, what you're getting yourself into and what you want to get out of it. What's the goal of it?
Yeah, I think that's hugely important because you will feel like you failed if you just did it and thought, man, this is going to be this is going to be popular, right? And like being a little realistic, it's like, what do I really want to do? I want to gather 20 people who also like the thing I want. Like, attainable goals make it feel real successful because it is. But like you have expectations of your favorite streamers. It just doesn't happen. It's like a 1%, like that type thing. So
converting to live viewers is insane. You may look at a YouTube video and think 10,000 views, that's really successful. And then you would think, okay, what does that translate to for live viewers? You might think 200, 500. You may be looking at 15 or 20. So as long as you understand live streaming is significantly different than video views or podcast downloads, I think your expectations won't be set too high. It's a lot more difficult, especially if you're trying to grow through live only.
Right. Yeah. No, it's very tough.
Yeah, and I don't recommend that people try live to grow. I think live is better to engage people. And I think that's why people go to live, is because it's something engaging, entertaining, connecting in some ways. And that's what I've seen with my own community when I've done live things, is it was a great way to get the community involved. Like, especially when we did our TV show fan podcast, we made it a regularly scheduled thing. Since we're in Eastern time zone, we have the benefit of TV shows airing, two TV shows time zones airing at the same time, Central and Eastern, because, they always say 8/7 Central. So that meant for us in Eastern time, if you're going to do a TV show fan podcast, live in either Central time zone or Eastern. But that meant, so we had two time zones watching at the same time. So we'd always tell them 15 minutes after the show airs, we will be live. So that brought them there. They loaded up their laptop computers or whatever, joined us immediately after the TV show, so we could all bask in the awesomeness together or complain together. And it just really made it a great, tight community. And that's what we did it for. I don't know that, there are some platforms, like Blab was a little bit of a discovery platform. Twitch, a little bit of a discovery platform. YouTube, not so much for live content, I think, unless you title it really well. Facebook, again, not unless people are sharing it. But I think your likelihood of
Instagram's
growing,
big, actually,
you're not going to grow much from live. Right? Your audience won't grow much. You as a podcaster will grow, by hosting a live show. And I think your community will grow together and be tighter and build friendships from the live.
So do you think that live streaming indirectly could lead to growth? Because as you grow a stronger community, they're more invested in the community and more likely to share that with their friends.
Yeah, it's a consequential benefit. It's not a direct benefit. You can't, and so you can't expect to grow right away. You have to put in the time. You have to put in a lot of overnights to be a success, so to speak.
And the same thing goes for non-live content. I mean, it's just the way
make
it
great
works.
content.
Yeah.
I've run into that where I'll see somebody at a conference and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's great to meet you." Blah, blah. I always tell everybody about the show, man. I love the show, and the whole time I'm thinking School of Podcasting. And they go, "I'm up every Saturday morning." I'm like, "Oh, they're talking about Ask the Pod." And so here's this. It's a more engaged person because I'm there every Saturday and it's live, and I run into that more frequently. Than I'm like, "Really? You don't? Oh no, I like the live thing." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, live has always been, I think, the bonus content, right? Like it is usually something you're going to get a lot less reach, I guess you could say, from it, and it's for oftentimes the super listener, right?
Well, and what Bandrew was talking about earlier is when you go live too, you can't, unless you really just want to like throw it against the wall. I have stuff that I am going to like. I prepare 90 minutes worth of material, even though I may not use half of it, because I cannot count on the chat room coming up with these great questions. They usually do. In fact, they always do. But I'm always worried that nobody's going to show up, and I'm just going to go, "All right, well, where's everybody from?" So it's as much as you're like, "Oh, it's great." You hit record, and when you're done, you're done. I'm like, not for me. It's a lot of prep up time.
Yeah, that nicely answers Michael's question in the chat room. What do you do if no one shows up for your live stream? Then you know what? Then you record a podcast.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think differentiates really good Twitch streams from really bad Twitch streams. You'll go in and they may have 1 or 2 viewers and they are actively engaging the people who are watching. That's a good stream. Then if you go to a bad one, they may have 5 viewers and they're just sitting there playing the game, not saying a dang word. So I think there does need to be some amount of preparation, assuming that you won't get any content from the people in the chat room. You need to be able to offer some value. Why would anybody just come to a live stream of somebody they don't know and start asking question after question? You need to give them a reason to come and a reason to stay and engage with you.
Good, Dan.
There's a great documentary on Netflix about ZZ Top. It might have been Amazon. It's hard to, they're all blending together these days. But ZZ Top was playing a theater that held hundreds of people, and they had one person. They had one person, and the guy started to leave, and they actually stopped the song and said, "Please don't leave. Like, what do you want to hear?" And they said they took a break, went down, hung out with the guy, and basically he just like, "Well, I like this song. Okay, we'll play that." They said that guy still comes to concerts today and goes, "You guys remember me?" And they're like, "Oh, we definitely remember you." So, and the Police, Sting one time on the Tonight Show talked about how they had 3 guys that stuck around and they did the same thing. They're like, "What do you guys want to hear?" And one of those guys happened to be a DJ in New York City who started playing the Police, which then led to other people playing the Police. So, take advantage if you just have a few people. If you can throw gas on those, maybe that's not a good. If you can throw gas on them, yeah.
Don't throw gas on the audiences.
Yeah. So
we're not that metal.
Yeah.
But
what were you going to say, Ray?
I was going to say that also, to Bandrew's point, like talk to the people who are seeing it. Remember that in most cases you are recording as well as live streaming, and you are talking to someone. You're talking to a larger audience than is there live. All right. Most people are going to hear this in a podcast or watch it later, right? Like we've had nice turnout tonight, but more people will watch later. So we are talking to you as well as the stream, right? So if there is one or no people there, because when you start streaming, a lot of times no one is there, but do your show. But I part of that is being prepared, or hit stop stream, like come back another day. Like you don't have to do it just because you're live. Awesome. Well, hey, we got into like several topics, which is exactly what we're trying to do here. So congrats to everyone. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully, if you're stuck inside, you've been entertained. But this is normal. This is normal for us. So every couple weeks, podcastersroundtable.com/guest, sign up. We'll bring in new people to do the same thing every couple weeks, and we want to see you. We want to see you on here. So also subscribe if you are watching this live stream. It is via YouTube, even though we're going through StreamYard. It's going to YouTube. Hit subscribe. Definitely hit that notification button so you'll know when we go live. There you go. Daniel's holding up the StreamYard logo for us because we're cheap here and we go free. We're proving the power of free. All right, Dave. And oh, pat the duck on the head. That's nice, Dan.
With the Skype headphones.
Yeah, that doesn't make you guys. It makes no sense. We're waiting for the logo redesign. Daniel maybe will want to help out with that. All right, hey, let us know where we can find your podcast or wherever you want to send somebody, and then we'll get back to lockdown alone, checking out other live streams. I got to go watch other live streams, man. Daniel J. Lewis, thanks again.
Thank you. The latest thing I've been working a lot on is mypodcastreviews.com to let you see and share and engage with your audience through the power of podcast reviews, and on Twitter at the Daniel J. Lewis.
Awesome. Dave Jackson.
You can find me over at schoolofpodcasting.com, where I help you start your podcast and grow your influence.
Very cool. And Bandrew, returning roundtabler. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Always fun hanging out. You can find me at bandrewscott.com. Links to everything, all the social medias, all the YouTubes, the whatevers. Check it out.
Very cool. All right. And I already blabbed about where to find us. Not on Blab. Doesn't exist.
Can we have Bandrew throw something over his shoulder just because I'm used to seeing that?
I think we're supposed to open. I think that's how we open, but we might as well close. Whoa, that doesn't seem like it's safer.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I think there's a pillow back there. You know,
no, it's a 58. It could survive a nuclear blast.
It's actually meant to be thrown.
Yeah.
It would be disrespected if you did not throw the 58. All right. Yeah. Wave goodbye. Thanks, everyone. There's an end button here somewhere. I do this every time. Shift it onto the side so we can see the chat.